Today on the Big 3 in 30, number one Arizona holds off BYU to stay undefeated.
Boy, what an atmosphere it was. It was so loud.
Darian Mensah is finally free after a legal dispute with Duke.
83-52, the final score for Duke over Louisville.
And the Blue Devils dominate on the hardwood against number 20 Louisville.
They have settled with Darian Mensah.
This is the Big 3 in 30 College, the three biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The number one Arizona Wildcats remained undefeated last night by beating number 13 BYU in one of the better games of the college basketball season. Locked On Wildcats host Leif Thulin has the recap live from the arena.
What a game it was. I am live on site at the Marriott Center, home of the BYU Cougars, and boy, what an atmosphere it was. It was so loud. Every shot that BYU scored, deafening. Arizona, when they scored to end runs, a pin could drop. You could hear the gasp of these deflated BYU fans. And what a sweet, sweet sound that was, seeing Arizona survive a litany of difficult calls, a litany of fortuitous bounces for BYU. And Arizona, the better team throughout, steady, egalitarian in their attack, powerful, rim-oriented, defeated team that did hit over 10 threes, that did score 20 plus from their star. But Arizona made it brutally difficult for A.J. Dybantsa. A.J. Dybantsa struggled. The box score will say 24 points. The box score will tell you that BYU competed and this game was close. The reality is Arizona dominated from the get-go. It took them a couple minutes to get into this game. It took them a couple minutes to find their rhythm. And eventually, they closed the half strong, winning the first half 44-31, relying on what they do best. Getting to the rim, shooting twos, high percentage baskets against a team forced to shoot difficult shots. Arizona closed on a 12-2 run to that first half, and they did so despite A.J. Dybantsa drawing so many fouls. And Koa Pete with 2, Mo Krivas with 2, Tobe Awaka with 2. Frustration strewn across the face of those guys who are doing their best to avoid fouling. It was a very clear discussion for Arizona at halftime. Do not foul. Do not give them any buckets that stop the clock. And Arizona was able to survive all of those things and win this game. But the survival, I don't want to be the story. The survival, I think, is going to be talked about like, oh, BYU pushed Arizona to the brink. And in a way, they did. They had a chance to win the game at the final possession. But with Arizona, a team was a pick them off before the Arizona dominated this game statistically. The reason this was a survival, and I will never, and I make this to anyone who knows me, I will never ever be someone that says the refs won a team a game or lost a team again. However, the refs allowed for BYU to stay alive in this game. You saw calls like Karchenkov got stripped, but he was mauled, and then it led to a flagrant foul on Burries that kept Arizona from winning this game at that moment. Then you saw an offensive foul on Bradley in which he was held prior to him shoving off. I will never be someone to say that Arizona was robbed because of a ref. This is about as close as I will come ever to saying that, because the inconsistency with which A.J. Dybantsa was refereed and everyone else was very apparent. But I don't want to talk about the refs. I want to talk about the Arizona Wildcats, who are now 21-0 and clearly the best team in the country. And my graphic on this show says the better team won. I admit I wrote that with like 15 minutes left of real time, about 3 minutes left in the game, and I wrote it out and said, okay, the better team from start to finish wins this game. And Arizona did, so I'm glad I did not put that jinx on. BYU is a good team, but Arizona is the best team. Arizona was, from start to finish, poised, rugged, and together. BYU was living and dying by threes. They made a lot of threes in the second half. Arizona got consistent scoring in a way that they haven't gotten before. Yes, their formula I've talked about ad nauseum It's point-oriented paints. Pop. You're going to score from the inside the paint. But Arizona didn't score that many from two. From within the paint. Arizona struggled within the paint. They barely won the rebounding total. Arizona had 34 points in the paint as opposed to 26 from BYU. It's because BYU had a concerted effort to make life difficult to get the ball inside to Pete, to make life difficult to get the ball inside to Krivas and Awaka. They weren't allowed to be as great on the glass because the idea was keep guys out of the paint, and don't let the entries beat them. Don't let Arizona's size and physicality dictate the game. The dictating of the game usually is Arizona high-low entrances. They get easy buckets. Koa Pete had to hit mid-range jump shots. BYU changed how they played and played bigger. Hadim Boop came in early. Mikhailo Boskovic played a ton. Ahmed fouled out, used his fouls. Kebaketa forced on the interior. He got a lot of rebounds late that kept BYU in this game. BYU played a lineup where they had no point guard at one point. It was AJ, Richie, and Moo Davis, who hit a bunch of threes, along with Boop and Boskovic. Like, they played bigger to match Arizona's physicality. Yet still, Arizona has yet to be beaten on the glass. Arizona won narrowly, 39-37, and they had 32 defensive rebounds to just 21. The offensive glass favored BYU tremendously. That is a little concerning, but I'll tell you what the real story of this game is. The story of this game is Arizona and their sustainability scoring the basketball is here to stay. Even without scoring from two in the way that they typically do from 5 feet. They get 45% of their buckets at the rim. 45 from 5 feet and in. In this game, they did not. And yet, without hitting many threes, Arizona hit 4 threes, shooting 33%. So not far below the average and below the average of percentage and output. Yet they still scored 86 points, enough to beat BYU on their home court when there were questionable moments down the stretch and a stalled offense too prematurely. So here is the story. Braden Burries played the best game he has as an Arizona Wildcat in the most hostile environment he's had yet. Braden Burries, 29 points on 13 shots. Jaden Bradley, 10 made shots out of 15 attempts, 26 points, and those guys were the best players on the court. And that included a likely number 1 or number 2 pick in AJ DeMonsa. AJ, 24 points, 24 shots. That's terrible, and that is a credit to Arizona's defense. He scored those 24 points by making 11 free throws out of 16 attempts. Arizona, I told you guys the strategy I thought Arizona should use is play single coverage on AJ DeBonsa and do not let Richie Saunders get going. AJ DeBonsa was able to generate a ton of good looks, and Arizona made a few mishaps at the end of the game where they would double and Kostic hit 2. Davis was spectacular. And in that second half alone, BYU went 10 of 20 from 3. That's more threes than Arizona's conceded in all but 2 games this season in the second half alone. Yet Arizona still led by 13 with just 3 minutes to go. The end of game execution, referees aside, end of game execution needs work. It is not very good, and it hasn't been in the games against Florida, against UConn, and against BYU. But if you can win the minutes for 36 and you're the better team for 36 minutes against a team like BYU, you are going to be great. Arizona won this game for 36 minutes, and they did just enough and came up with one last-ditch stand, connected despite the chaos, despite the variables against them, and dominant for the other 36 minutes. Here's some statistics that are telling. Arizona and points off of turnovers were up 13-2 in the first half. They were beaten like that in the second half, and that was largely at the end of the game. But the difference in this game, Arizona, they only needed 12 points from 3 to score 89. That's 77 points from 2 in the free throw. If you can get 77 from 2 in the 3, every X factor for Arizona it's not. The X factor for Arizona is just playing their game. Like they don't need an X factor. The difference is when Arizona makes over a couple threes, let's say 5 threes. If Arizona makes 6 and above threes, they're going to run the other team out of the gym because they're going to sustainably score 70 plus without 3-pointers made. So it's not can they make threes? It's if Arizona makes threes, they run the team out of the gym. It's not Can they make threes? Yes, they can. They do not need to. When they do, it's not close. If they don't, they still win. They scored two threes to score 93 against Florida. They scored 4 threes to score 89. And yes, BYU gave a great punch in the final 4 minutes, but for 36 minutes, the best team in the nation imposed their will on a team that decided they were going to play Arizona style, match them size for size, and try to beat them at what Arizona does well. Arizona adjusted, scored in the mid-range rather than the rim, had All-American performances from both of their backcourt members, and Koa Pete, Ivan Karchenkov, those guys did their job. They defended AJ without help and made Richie Saunders' life difficult. BYU has a great player, but they don't have a great team. And Arizona has a great team, and a team is going to beat a great individual.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. Number 4 Duke dominated in an ACC matchup against number 20 Louisville last night, winning by more than 30 over the Cardinals for the Blue Devils' best start in more than a decade. Locked On Blue Devils host JJ Jackson goes over the win.
Massive 31-point victory, 83-52, the final score for Duke over Louisville, as we welcome in Kevin Conley. 2 consecutive days that Kev joins us on the show, and another win that we get to break down, Mr. Conley. This is a good feeling. You and I very much so enjoyed this Monday night game.
Yeah, JJ, this is kind of crazy. Like, going into this game, it was like, man, all right, let's see. This should be a premier game in the ACC. And I guess it was for like 16 minutes. You can even push it to like 20 minutes, that it was a good competitive game. But man, that end of the run and that end of first half run for Duke, and they carried it into a great start to the second half. And you look up and they're up by 20 plus points, and you're like, man, how the heck did this happen? The defense, I think, was great. I know we said a couple of games ago against Stanford might have been their best defensive performance of the year. Well, they upped that and then some here against a Louisville team that has a great offense that can really shoot the ball well from three-point range, and Duke just completely shut them down basically from start to finish.
Yeah, from a makes perspective, the three-point line was kind to the Cardinals, double-digit in makes there, but overall shooting team percentage, as people were loving our quick math that we were having to do on yesterday's show, Kevin, they shot 30% overall as a team. It's really good to see Duke swaying back in the under 40% department. And when you're 10 points better than that at 30% that Louisville shoots for the game, I mean, we'll take that no matter what.
Well, yeah, and even when you boil down to it, you mentioned those 11 made three-pointers. Louisville only made 16 shots in the game. So only 5 two-point field goals the Cardinals made in this game.
That's crazy to think about. What a perspective that is, man.
When you just make 5 two-point field goals, yeah, that's insane. I mean, some of these, granted, it's a different level of intensity and atmosphere, but these mid-majors that Duke played made more than 5 two-point field goals in these games. Mikel Brown Jr., terrible. What a terrible. I mean, 1 for 13, was 0 for 8 in the first half. It was his second game back from the injury. So, maybe still getting his legs underneath him and getting that rhythm back to playing basketball. But Duke just did a phenomenal job on him. And then you look at the other side, Ryan Conwell, who Duke did such a great job in the second half in the first matchup against Louisville. He really just has a complete game for the Cardinals, was clearly their best player with 18 of their 52 points. So, Dame Sarr couldn't guard everybody out there, JJ, but when he was on Brown, he certainly did a really good job on him.
Yeah, SARS straps is taking over once again. And again, I saw this for the first time on J-Man's timeline, so I got to give him credit for that. If we're not printing the shirts already, we need to do something like that because it's unbelievable to watch this guy really bought in on the defensive end of the floor and totally taking away some of the other team's best players from the action and that sort of thing. Conwell hit one of those threes in the first half that put Louisville up by a single point, their only lead for the entire game. And on the next possession down the floor, Patrick Gongba got an and one. So, I mean, it was just so brief, the one lead that the Cardinals had. For that little moment, it looked like, okay, they're coming back. Duke had as large of a 8-point lead at that point in the first half, and then they started to make a few more shots. But once that happened, like I said, when Gongba got that and one, Duke never looked back.
Well, JJ, I mean, yes, that was a big point in the game, but you look at Louisville after that three-pointer from Ryan Conwell, they'd scored 25 points in just under 16 minutes. Well, in the following 24 minutes and 30 seconds, Louisville scored 27 total points combined in that time. So, again, the defense from Duke was simply incredible. Louisville just had no rhythm whatsoever on the offensive side of the floor, and that's tough to do for a Cardinal team that prides itself on its offense. And you wonder, again, Louisville flew to Durham this Monday morning, the morning
Sure.
of the game. So, like, how much of a factor did that play? Because typically these teams, fly the day before. They spend the night in the city where they're playing, and then they fly home immediately after the game. But with the bad weather, both in Louisville and in Durham, the fact that ESPN wanted this game to be played, Duke wanted this game to be, everyone wanted this game to be played. And I guess the compromise was Louisville flies on Monday morning to get there safely because they just weren't able to fly with all the weather on Saturday or on Sunday, and even Saturday after Louisville's game. You would think, could they get out right away? But they opted to stay till Monday, and they did not have a good performance against Duke on Monday night.
No, I don't know that there was anything really that they could do to make them feel a little bit better about the way it went. And, we had that Pat Kelsey discussion a little bit on yesterday's show that in his first 3 meetings as the Louisville head coach against Duke, he somehow was able to walk into the locker room with the lead and lost every single game by 11. Here's this for a note. Duke is leading at halftime. So we'll throw that out away. And then, like I said, the final result being 11, it happened 3 times previously. 11 times 3 is 33. We had a 31-point victory here. I mean, it was kind of all in one what unfolded in this game inside Cameron Indoor. It took me a while to get to the final point there, Kevin, but man, what a performance there from Duke.
Your math was good though, right? You did math,
yeah,
and you were ready to go. Not like me on yesterday's show where you saw the smoke coming out of my ears and my head getting red trying to think and doing all that quick math. But, there's a couple of things. I think it became very apparent that Louisville just didn't have the size to match up with Duke inside. And I know we'll get to what Pat Gongba and obviously Cam Boozer did, but specifically Gongba, because if you remember back to that first game against Louisville, he was a non-factor.
He was great.
Yeah, I mean, Pat Gongba was just a non-factor in that game.
Tonight, he was great.
Yeah, those 3 first-half fouls, one coming on the technical,
hook and hold,
I think it was, and he was just completely taken out of the game. In this game, he was great. 15 points, 5 rebounds. Really just was a force inside. And when Duke is rolling with Gongba and Boozer on the inside, it's very difficult, not just for Louisville, but really any team in the ACC to match them down low. And Duke flexed their muscles with those two. And then you add in the fact that I thought Malik Brown, especially on the defensive side of the floor, rebounding, he had the big monster put-back dunk, one of his 2 made field goals. I thought Duke's forward group really, really played well in this game.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. After a dispute with Duke, quarterback Darian Mensah has reached a settlement with the university and is finally free to transfer anywhere he pleases, including the speculated Miami Hurricanes. With the speculation pointing Mensah toward the U, Locked On Canes host Alex Dono gets into his recruitment.
The announcement hits this morning, first announced by Darian Mensah's legal representation. Duke also released a statement. They have settled with Darian Mensah. I'm sure there's a big financial component to that, which has not been disclosed, but the settlement has been reached. And most importantly, Bruce, Darian Mensah is now free to transfer and enroll anywhere. I think Duke tried to sneak something in there to bar him from going to another ACC school. That's not in the settlement. He can transfer to Miami, and we expect that to happen anytime now.
Yeah, and this is fabulous news because we just, I thought about this in the last, what has it been, 8 days since we lost to Indiana. And I remember doing the show the next day and saying, I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. And here we are 8 days later. I'm thrilled. I kind of it's almost like we didn't lose in a way because look what's going on. And everybody was saying, we're here. No, we're back. And like I said, I don't care what they call it. We're back because look how relevant we are now. Look where we are in the national spotlight. We're back where we were years ago every single year. And so here we are. Yeah, it took 24 years to get to this point, but with our schedule, with our coaching staff all coming back except for one or two guys, and the talent we have in this roster and the talent we brought in the last 8 or 9 days, Alex, it's only January. It's not football time yet, but I can't be any more excited than I am now. This is spectacular what's going to happen from now on. Off-season, the training, we'll talk about guys that need to step up, but this is an exciting time to be a Cane. In 8 days, look what's going on here. And this Mensah kid is spectacular. I think he's as close to Cam Ward as we're going to find.
And, we're only about a month and a half away from spring football. Like, I cannot wait to get out to Green Tree and watch Darian Mensah. Here, let me give you some of the statement that Darian Mensah's legal team put out there. I'll read a couple of excerpts from this. We are honored to represent exceptional athletes, their families, and in this case, it has been our privilege to stand alongside Darian Mensah and those closest to him. Through close collaboration and principled negotiation, we have successfully navigated an unprecedented path, one that has now reached a fair and mutually agreeable resolution. We are pleased to announce that Darian Mensah, supported by our team of legal counsel and Young Money APAA Sports, has reached a settlement agreement with Duke University. So, Bruce, there was a hearing scheduled for Thursday. From where I sit, there were risks for both sides to actually take this through the courts and get to that next hearing, because if either side got an unfavorable ruling from the judge, it could have been disastrous. So, yeah, I've maintained all along that settling this one out of court was the right way to go.
Yeah, it always is, no matter what, whether it's this or a divorce. It's always better to settle if you can, because you can control the terms. Yeah, I heard you say that Duke wanted to slip something in that he couldn't play in any other ACC team for any other ACC team. Never was going to happen. That was a deal breaker. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no.
So they lost him. I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know if you know what they are. But you know what? It's not my money, and I don't care. Just get the kid in here, get his wide receiver, get his sister, and let's go, man. Let's just go.
Yeah, I think his sister's a soccer player who's probably going to be at Miami now. And you mentioned the receiver, Cooper Barkate, who was Mensah's top receiver at Duke, 1,100 plus yards, 7 touchdowns this past year. And I went down on some Darian Mensah rabbit holes through highlights and film, and Cooper Barkate was on the receiving end of most of what Darian Mensah was doing this year. And apparently they're coming in together. And man, Bruce, like I'm thinking about how stacked Miami's wide
Yes.
receiver room is going to be. I mean, adding Vandrevius Jacobs and Cam Vaughn, potentially adding Cooper Barkate. Malachi Toney is here. Joshua Moore is back. Dalen Upshaw is back.
Yep.
You've got multiple true freshmen who I think can play right away, especially Milan Paris and Samorian Wingo, who have been playing on the scout team even during the playoff run because they enrolled early.
Yep.
And then you got a running back room that's loaded. Like, this may be the best offense we've ever had, including 2024.
Or 2021, when we had Shockey, right?
2001, you mean, not 2021.
Yeah, 2001. We had all those great players. We were too deep everywhere. So they probably had more overall talent, because look what 38 made it to the NFL. But still, this is now as we're doing these shows, now I have to spend the next 6 months talking about the defense. But I think we're okay. The only thing we don't have is these guys have not played as a unit, because you lose Thomas, you lose Scott, you lose Bain, Mesidor, you lose Besaint. That's 5 right there that I could think of, and those are all pretty important parts. Now, from what I understand, Smith may be back.
Chase
at
Smith,
linebacker.
yeah, it looks like he's back.
Now, and he's a hitter, man. He's made some big plays. So we're now it's not so, it doesn't bother me as much. We have to replace and get some linebackers. We're going to be fine. This team's going to be fine. It's hard to believe they won't be preseason in the top 5. I thought about this yesterday too. If Ohio State is ahead of us with all those guys going to the NFL, then it's rigged, because they shouldn't be ranked ahead of us. We beat them. We went to the title game. They're losing 1 million guys to the draft.
Yeah.
But that, I don't really care. Just win. Just win. And you want to talk about the schedule? That schedule.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more on the other side. Hold on. We'll get to the schedule, but I want to talk about what Darian Mensah, the quarterback, can do for this offense, because I honestly, he takes a lot of, I'm not saying he's going to be as good or better than Cam Ward. I mean, maybe he has a chance, but he takes a lot of the best traits of Cam Ward and combines it with some of the best traits of Carson Beck.
That's all for today's Big 3 in 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 in 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and the NFL going up every weekday, just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA or the Big 3 in 30 NFL, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 in 30 College.